What's good, everybody? Is when I come back at you on another video. So this video is going to be all about willpower, and the title of this video is "Your Willpower is Unmatched." And I'm going to highlight this with a true story of a conversation that took place many years back when President John F. Kennedy was in charge, and he was basically having a conversation with the NASA director. So for those of you who are not living in the United States are familiar with NASA. NASA is based NASA, right, is the acronym. That is the organization that's basically responsible for everything related to space, right? It's responsible for building the rocket ships and sending astronauts to space and, bringing them back safely to Earth. So President John F. Kennedy at the time was having a conversation with the director of NASA, and he asked him, what would it take to build a rocket to send a human being, an astronaut, to space, right, to land on the moon and then bring them back safely down to Earth? That was a question that John F. Kennedy proposed to the director, and so the director simply responded, the will to do it. I share this story because the willpower of human beings, if we hone in on this ability and focus on this, can be one of the greatest, if not the greatest power that we have, because our willpower is effectively our ability to focus, right? The reason the director responded with that answer, the will to do it, right, and not anything technical, right? He didn't give any technical response, explaining, oh, this needs to get done or this needs to get done. And he didn't mention any sort of timeline, right? Because he understood that as human beings, it's usually never anything tied to anything technical, right? Because we have a supercomputer in our minds, which is our brains, right? Our brains can solve any problem. So it's less about that, and it's more so whether or not we are willing, as people, whether or not we are willing to pay the price in order to strive and achieve that goal, right? He says as his response, the will to do it, because it is a matter of commitment and focus. Because if human beings, right, this would of course be a major accomplishment, because this was before we ever sent a human being onto the moon, right? It is mostly about commitment and focus, because that is what it will take. That is what is needed to accomplish such a large goal, right? Because it likely won't be something that'll be completed overnight, and it'll take many hours, many days, many weeks, many months, perhaps even many years. And if people are up for the task, then that is how they can go about accomplishing the goal, right? And I usually use this example because I want you to relate this to your life and for you to take the wisdom in this and apply it to yourself, right? If you have a big goal, something that you want to accomplish, right, you may not know how it's going to get done, right? Because then if you knew how, right, you would be at your destination. However, even if you don't know how something can be done, or maybe you might know some of the action steps, but maybe you can't take the action steps right now, what's going to be more important is your level of commitment and focus towards that goal. Because in this day and age, right, most people are not focused, right? Most people give their attention and commitment, well, most people give their commitment to a lot of things, right, rather than specializing on one or a few things. But most folks, it's very hard for them to focus because their attention is everywhere, right? You go on social media, right? Everything is about short videos. Everything's about, flooding your system with dopamine, all of these colors, all of these camera cuts, right? So people's attention spans are already low as it is. And in this day and age, it's easier than ever to succeed at anything, because success simply requires focus, simply requires being dedicated towards a goal and showing up and pursuing that goal each and every day, right? Because if we equate this to a marathon, right, how many people sign up to complete a marathon? And yet it's not that if 1,000 people were to sign up to do a marathon, it's not normal for all 1,000 people to finish, right, to make it to the end. That doesn't normally happen, right? The majority of people eventually fizzle out as the miles go on, and then only a handful of people actually end up making it to the end of the marathon, right? It's the same idea in life, right? If you want to succeed at anything, you just need to be persistent enough at it and continue at it until success unfolds. Because as you continue doing something, you're inevitably going to get better, right? You're inevitably going to learn. You're going to experience, or you're going to gather new information, right? New experiences, and that is going to, the new experiences you have is going to give you more experience as a person in this space, right? So you effectively become an expert. You effectively grow into an industry leader. And if you stay in a business, in an industry, or doing an activity long enough, then you will effectively become an expert, and it'll become hard to replace you, right? Because you have all of these years worth of information and experience that a new person won't have, or won't have access to, right? So this video is highlighting the willpower of human beings, and it's also highlighting the fact that when the director basically gave his response saying the will to do it, that's what it'll take to bring a man to the moon, he didn't specify a date. And he did that on purpose. He didn't specify a date because as long as you're consistent and working towards the goal, it shouldn't matter when it happens, because when you achieve that goal, it'll happen at the right time when you're ready, right? Many people, when they have goals written down, they like to set a date. Like, for example, some people may have a goal that by the end of this year, right, by December 31st of this year, that they're going to be a millionaire, right? It may very well be, like, you may have your eyes and your mind fixated on that goal and that date, but what if that date is not the right time for you, right? What if we make it to January 1st and then that goal isn't achieved? Are you just going to believe that that will never happen for you, right? Because you need to remember that there's so many variables that are happening behind the scenes that your senses can't pick up, that things can very well be organizing itself behind the scenes for you. And it may not happen at the last day of the year. It may happen shortly into next year or the year after, right? But because people have their mind fixated on that goal, I understand it's like it provides like a sense of urgency, but that urgency can create doubt, right? Because if, let's just say, for example, your goal is to do it by the end of the year, to reach millionaire status, and then Christmas arrived and nothing's changed, right? You're obviously, doubt is going to creep in, because you're going to think that it won't be possible for you to reach your goal, right? So basically eliminating or not even including a date helps relieve pressure. Because just imagine if NASA, they put a date on when they were going to achieve the goal, and then even though they were not ready and they didn't finalize everything for the rocket ship, because they want to meet their deadline, they end up sending an astronaut to space, and it ends up being a disaster because the rocket wasn't built properly, right? Like, that wouldn't be a good thing, right? So the idea with your goals is, you want to have goals, great. Write the goals in the present tense, because you want to accept and believe that the goal has already happened, that you're living in your dream right now. And if you're living in your dream right now, then there's no need to write a date, because you're already experiencing and living it now, right? You're not worried about how or when it's going to happen, because it has already happened, because you wrote your goal in present tense, right? Many people make the mistake of writing their goal and setting a date when it's like, you don't know if that's the best time for the goal to unfold for you. You don't know if, next month is the best time for you, but because you put the date at the end of the year, right, you're postponing it all, right? Like, the willpower, the will to do it, is simply just commitment and focus. And that is what should be most important. Does not matter how long it actually takes in the physical world for something to happen, right? What's most important is locking in and showing up each and every day and putting your best foot forward and being committed. Because in this day and age, to succeed, that's all you need. That's literally all you need. Because most people are not going to commit to something for long enough if they're not experiencing or receiving the rewards that, most people prefer instant gratification. And If you want to truly be successful at anything, you need to be willing to accept delayed gratification, meaning that it may take many months or a year or 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, right, to get to where it is that you want to go. And if you're willing to accept that, then that means you're here for the long haul. That means you're going to outlast everyone else, right? Because you're not doing it for immediate recognition. You're doing it because there's purpose behind it, because something is important to you and it means something to you. That is how you outlast everyone else, because most people want to be rewarded, and most people want, they want it right now. They want microwave results. They want to give something a try and then succeed right away, and then just go all in, right, and just win in a week, right? Like that's how most people want to do things. And if it doesn't happen, they'll just quit. However, you're not the same. You're different, right? You have a completely different amount of willpower and focus and commitment and dedication and discipline. And I understand that in order to achieve anything great, that is what you need. You need to show up each and every day and put your best foot forward. You need to bring out the best version of yourself, and you need to put on blinders, right? You don't want to look to the left or to the right of you to see what other people are doing. Doesn't matter, right? Focus on you and your journey, because you can't appreciate your journey if you're constantly looking at what everyone else is doing and where everyone else stands. Does not matter. Your journey is your journey, so put your best foot forward in that. So this video here is all about willpower and highlighting how powerful the willpower is of human beings or people if you decide to tap into it and really hone in on it, right? Because the willpower can help you accomplish anything. Like you can be the next big thing if you so choose, right? And it will take willpower. It will take you to lock in, and you have access. That's the beauty. You have access to it, and you can hone in on that. And all the successful people have utilized this, and it allowed them to be great. So highlighting to you how powerful willpower is, and willpower is what ultimately got the rocket to be created and what allowed us to send a man onto the moon. So if we can do that with willpower, then we can do that to accomplish any and every other goal that we set forth. So that wraps up the video. Enjoy the video. Do leave a like and subscribe as we're on the road to 1 million subscribers, guys. So once again, it's Joel, and I'm out. I'll see you guys for the next video.